Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining my webinar today. I am so excited to have the opportunity to speak about topics that directly impact caregivers. Unfortunately, caregiving does not come with a manual. Working with caregivers is a priority for me as there is a scarcity of information, support, and resources designed specifically for them. My name is Haley Christensen, and I'm the Program Manager with the Southern Alberta Brain Injury Society, also known as SAVIS, in Calgary, Alberta. SAVIS was founded by caregivers of brain injury survivors seeking resources for their loved ones. We support caregivers in navigating the road less traveled by facilitating caregiver support groups, providing case management, and resource navigation. Today, we'll be talking about healthy boundaries and positive disconnect in the caregiving role. Today's webinar will highlight the importance of setting and maintaining healthy boundaries and creating a positive disconnect between yourself and the caregiving role. I will also introduce practical ways to help implement these concepts into everyday life. It is my hope that you will feel empowered to honor yourself, take time for you, and in the process, be the best caregiver you can be. We'll start off with self-care is not selfish. In 2018, approximately 648 million hours of unpaid care were performed by caregivers in Alberta alone. By the end of the day, caregivers are simply exhausted. Oftentimes, they have spent the majority of their day doing for others, preparing for upcoming tasks and appointments, and have not had time for themselves. As a caregiver, participating in self-care may be difficult. It might bring up feelings of guilt, shame, resentment, or fear, even if you're only taking a 10-minute break. A lot of folks say they feel selfish if they take any time for themselves. To some, self-care has negative assumptions attached to it, that it takes too much time or energy, money, or space. The most common one I hear from caregivers is that taking time for themselves is selfish. I thought I'd look up a definition of selfish to share with you today, and this is what I found. Selfish is defined as having or showing no concern for others and only for yourself. This is literally the exact opposite of caregivers. Yet, most caregivers I talk to express just that. If I take time for myself, I am selfish. There's that saying about the oxygen masks on airplanes. I'm sure you've heard it. Put your own oxygen mask on prior to assisting others. It is used a lot when discussing self-care, and for good reason. In order to be at our best, we must help ourselves first. We know that caregiving is strenuous, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Over 90% of caregivers report feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and frustrated. Caregiving without boundaries and disconnect can lead to compassion fatigue and burnout quickly, which is why they are so imperative. These skills are necessities for both the caregiver and the survivor to thrive. They are acts of self-care. We must honor and respect our own needs in order to be able to be of service to others. When we're talking about boundaries, we're discussing limits that are put into place in order to protect the caregiver's well-being. They identify what we are and are not willing or able to do authentically. Boundaries don't have people-pleasing or obligation attached to them. When caregivers set boundaries, their own well-being becomes equally as important as the well-being of the person they're caring for. Creating a positive disconnect acknowledges where the caregiving ends and where the rest of the caregiver's lives begin. It is not shutting down. It allows us to have a life outside of caregiving and brings the freedom to embrace other aspects of identity. As boundaries are set, positive disconnect often occurs naturally. Any big feelings that might arise will fade in time, and we will be able to let go as these principles are practiced. Big feelings that come up might be fear, guilt, or self-doubt. Taking baby steps with this is imperative, and try to remember that boundaries and positive disconnect support caregivers to heal from stress and allow caregivers to remain caregivers. Implementing these principles can be incredibly challenging, especially if they haven't been done in a caregiving role before. There are small, tangible skills that can be developed to make this process easier. Each of the skills that are discussed today connect with each other, but it is not a linear process. There is no one size fits all, so play around with it and have fun. It could look like starting a self-care challenge or setting a specific amount of time aside to work on the skills each day. Whatever works for you, please know that there is no right or wrong way to do this. This is your journey, and you have to make it work for you. Self-compassion is key when working with these principles. It takes practice and courage to develop the skills we talk about today, and there might be anxiety that comes up. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, to try new things, and take baby steps. Protecting your self-care practice is important, and protect it fiercely, whatever that practice looks like for you. If it helps, you can act as though your self-care time is as important as a specialist appointment. Write it on your calendar, set alarms, whatever might help you. The most important part is enforcing this boundary with yourself and others. Ultimately, the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important one. Treat yourself like a friend. When we are aware of what has prevented us from setting boundaries, solutions become remarkably easier to find. It might be guilt, feeling like we aren't doing enough, fear of losing the connection of the person we're caring for, or attempting to live up to expectations we've set, either with ourselves or from others. Sometimes caregivers attempt to fix, rescue, or save their loved ones. Asking yourselves these questions might help discover personal barriers in setting boundaries. Do I feel any discomfort when I think about setting boundaries as a caregiver? What impacts have I experienced in not setting boundaries as a caregiver? What expectations have I put on myself as a caregiver? And who am I outside of the caregiving role? A key question here is, am I willing to set boundaries? And dig a little deeper. Why or why not? Set aside some time, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, and take note of your answers to these questions. If it helps, you can write them down in a journal. Pay attention to your body's reaction when you think of these questions. Perhaps there's a knot in your stomach when you're thinking about boundaries. Have you developed any new pain since becoming a caregiver? Oftentimes we carry stress up in our shoulders, so if you're like this all the time, make note of it. Whatever comes up for you, please know that these feelings are completely normal. Be kind to yourself and know that it's okay to have this experience. Feelings can also be a great resource in discovering what aspects of our lives are out of sync. What's making us feel overwhelmed, distressed, anxious, or frustrated as a caregiver? Has anyone else absolutely lost it when they discovered that they forgot to pick up that one important item at the grocery store? But was it really about that one item? Being overworked can lead to very big feelings, and this too is normal. Note what triggers relate to you in a journal or internally. They can be used as a guide for where boundaries need to be set and what changes can be made. Boundaries do not have to be abrasive or cold, and rarely are they. Boundaries can come from a place of love and assert needs and wants. They can be spoken in a way that is respectful and kind. Regardless of the boundary that we're setting, they generally have 3 parts to them. Describing what you find unsatisfying, expressing how you feel about the situation, and specify what you would like to happen. Please note that all of these come from you. Using I statements can be very helpful when setting boundaries. And a simple no can also be a perfectly acceptable boundary. There's nothing wrong with saying no. But it's okay if you want to be open about why you're setting boundaries. This might sound like, I feel overwhelmed and have not been honest with myself about my stress levels. I'm working on setting boundaries with myself and others to avoid burning myself out. I care about our relationship and will feel closer to you when I honor my needs too. Some situations that caregivers face when a boundary may need to be set is when they're expressing needs. This might be, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need support. Can you help me schedule this appointment? Protecting time is a very important boundary for caregivers as well. It allows for the development of self-care time. It might sound like I'm working on something else right now. I will be able to help you in an hour. Sometimes there's people in our lives that give a lot of advice. A boundary might be, I'm telling you how I feel, not asking for your opinion about my feelings. I'd love if you can support me by just listening and caring. Bear in mind that boundaries do take a lot of practice. Sometimes they need to be repeated to others if we haven't set boundaries with them before. If reinstating the boundary more than twice has not been effective, sometimes boundaries do require a consequence. This could be, this conversation is not solving the problem. I'm taking a break now. I will let you know when I'm ready to speak about it again. Oftentimes, the boundaries needed are within the caregivers themselves. It's really easy to take on a superhuman role and attempt to do it all the time, without any help. Setting boundaries with ourselves as caregivers also acknowledges the autonomy and independence of the person we're caring for. When the survivor's capabilities aren't empowered, their self-esteem can be greatly impacted, which is the opposite of the intention. Knowing your limitations and acknowledging your loved one's abilities does not equate to giving up or no longer caring about them. It actually does the opposite. It fosters a deeper emotional connection to the person that's being cared for and encourages their own growth without the caregiver feeling they need to rescue, enable, fix, or control them. Setting boundaries with self can be more of an affirmation. It could be, I have self-care time planned this evening. I am unavailable for half an hour. Complex problems do require creative solutions, and trying new things can be helpful for caregivers. For example, is your loved one able to assist you with any tasks on your list? Perhaps it's helping put away groceries or dusting. Or are you able to reach out to a friend or family member to ask them to pick up milk for you? The key here is developing open communication. It will enhance your relationships, and it will also encourage your loved one's independence. Be honest about your capacity and your loved one's capacity here. Explore what works for you, and don't be afraid to try new things. Another helpful tip could be contacting your local brain injury society or association. They can support you to access resources for both caregivers and resources. Perhaps there is respite available that you weren't aware of, or your loved one might be interested in groups they would like to join. Trying something new might be allowing others to help you. This thought could bring up fear or anxiety, especially if there is a belief that you are the only person that will be effective in caring for them. Setting a boundary with yourself about this can make the process easier. The more supports that you are able to access, the easier the caregiving role becomes. Social interaction can also be incredibly healing for caregivers. Unfortunately, it is one of the first things to diminish following the entrance into a caregiving role. Why? Caregivers often express feeling extremely stressed with little time for what now seems to be a luxury, such as having time for themselves. It could be that friends and family simply don't understand what it's like to be a caregiver. Well-intentioned but unsolicited advice and invalidating the caregiver's experience can further lead to the downfall of these relationships. This can emphasize feelings of resentment, loneliness, and grief in caregivers. People need people in order to thrive. Support groups offer a safe, compassionate, and understanding place for caregivers to connect with other caregivers. They allow caregivers to have a voice and simply be heard. Just like family members of individuals with substance use challenges may attend Al-Anon family meetings, caregivers to brain injury survivors can greatly benefit from attending a caregiver support group. This is because they offer a place for the caregiver to express their authentic experience without judgment. They were able to learn new tips and tricks and create accountability in their lives. Having a set time to attend these meetings will also allow participants for scheduled self-care time and allow for the development of positive disconnect in the caregiving role. It will strengthen relationships with peers as well, as other people will relate to your story. Both virtual and in-person support groups are hosted in a variety of formats nationwide. Again, find what works for you. It's okay to feel awkward, guilty, or fearful when first experiencing positive disconnect from loved ones and the caregiving role. Trust this process. If you aren't feeling quite ready to attend a support group, take a 1-minute self-care break each day. It could be stepping outside and taking a few breaths of fresh air, or brushing your hair and doing a few small stretches. Taking that 1-minute break can be a great start in implementing a self-care practice long-term. Whatever it looks like for you, positive disconnect allows caregivers to embrace who they are outside of being a caregiver. Asking yourself again, who am I outside of being a caregiver, can remind us of identities that have often been forgotten in the caregiving role. Try to remember these identities. They will assist in embracing the positive disconnect. Oftentimes, caregivers forget that caregiving is a part of themselves, but it's not all that they are. Perhaps they're parents or working professionals. Sometimes affirmations can be used to remind ourselves that what we are doing is important work and that it is good enough. Caregiver affirmations might be, it is safe for me to enjoy my life. When I prioritize my own needs, I am better able to care for others. My wants and needs are important too. You can write them on a sticky note and put them on your bathroom mirror, or set an alarm on your phone with the affirmation as the title, so you're looking at it every hour. Make the affirmations work for you. It's okay to be hesitant with this at first, as there's no miracle cure for caregiver stress, but taking small tangible steps can make the process easier. When we talk about caregivers, we often relate them with compassionate tendencies. Brené Brown has this to say about boundaries in her book, Rising Strong. Compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to, and when they say yes, they mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them out of resentment. What I love about this is she's speaking about both the compassion to others and the compassion towards ourselves. Resentment will block any form of compassion, and the best way around it is to honor ourselves authentically. The reality is this: caring for ourselves is a basic need. It's not a want or an item to put on the to-do list for later. Well over half of caregivers report their health being negatively impacted by their caregiving. A 2003 study of caregivers by Ohio State University discovered significant deterioration in the health of caregivers when compared to non-caregivers. They did the study for 6 years, and before the end of it, 70% of caregivers had passed away. The reason was caregiver stress. I share this statistic not to scare you, but to remind you of the importance of self-care as a caregiver. Burnout is not an easy thing to reverse, and having strategies to implement before you hit burnout is a lot easier than trying to heal burnout after it's happened. I'll say that using these tools is definitely not a cure-all. It's not going to solve all of your problems or remove all of the stressors in your life, but it will allow you to manage these problems with less stress. It will help decrease feelings of isolation, fear, anxiety, depression, because you as a caregiver will feel more equipped to manage the caregiving role. Taking time to manage this stress allows us to continue caregiving long-term. Self-care does require active participation, but it does not require an excessive amount of time, money, or resources. Make it your own, whatever works for you. Again, it might just be a 1-minute break, but that 1 minute does mean something. There are a variety of national resources for caregivers available at braininjurycanada.ca. They also have a comprehensive list of support services through braininjurycanadaconnect.ca. Reaching out is often the first step. Taking that step can be scary at first, but oftentimes it is much worth it. I really do hope that this information is valuable to you. Thank you so much for taking time today, and take care of yourselves.